off-the-shelf accounting. Everybody's heard of the top two, QuickBooks and Peachtree, with QuickBooks being by far the most popular accounting software out there. It's very widely known. It's very easy to use. You could run down the street or get in your car and drive, and my guess is you'll have 25 people just fall out of buildings that can show you how to use QuickBooks. They just know it, whether it's an accountant or a consultant. Most people understand and know how to use QuickBooks. It does handle your basic accounting functions. It is a great accounting package to start your company with. It really is. The setup is not quite as easy as everybody thinks. There is a setup, even with something as basic as a QuickBooks or a Peachtree. There is setup involved. You will need help from somebody. The cost is relatively low for the QuickBooks for construction. You're probably in a couple $1,000 range, maybe a little bit added on to have somebody come in and show you how to use it. What's the downside to it? It lacks construction-specific features, period. It just does. And then you become dependent on spreadsheets. While spreadsheets are great tools, you don't want to become dependent on spreadsheets to do certain things. You want your accounting application to perform your accounting functions. So, again, this is just your simple off-the-shelf. What you go to next, or what you graduate to, as we like to say, is job cost accounting software. Angela mentions a couple, such as Foundation, who I happen to be the president for, Timberline. There's numerous ones out there. There's Computeries, Master Builder. There's CMCI that cost $500,000. There's Viewpoint that cost $125,000. You're all over the board, and they all deal with construction. You know, application like a Timberline or a Foundation, you're in the $10,000 to $30,000 range. A QuickBooks, like I said, you're in the $1,000 to $3,000 range. So I just went from $1,000 to $500,000, and they're all for construction. But it's very niche. Here's where some of the difficulties and complications come in. Setup is critical. You are not going to buy this application and be running it next week, cutting checks, sending out invoices, receiving in money. The setup, you need to go into it with your eyes wide open, realizing that you're looking at a 6 to 8 week process for a package like ours. You may be looking at a 4 to 6 month process for something like a Timberline. You're looking at a year to 24 months for something like a CMCI. And the larger the application, the higher the fail rate is. Like you care a lot of these SAP models. The percentage out there is something between 60 and 70% of all SAP, they fail. People never utilize them. How much money do you have into it? 1.4, $2.5 million. They fail. They don't even get them off the ground after 18 months. They just scrap it because it becomes so difficult. Now, with the job cost accounting, again, just remember you have to have a firm commitment, 6 to 8 weeks, 3 to 4 months, whatever it happens to be. But the benefits that you're going to get are tremendous. And the main things you're going to get is you're going to get construction-specific reporting and construction-specific features. Certain things such as certified payrolls, over-under billing, cash flow, production reports, AIAs. You'll be able to produce submittals, change orders, retainage. A lot of this stuff is what people are doing in spreadsheets right now. Again, spreadsheets are great tools, but you don't want to rely on the spreadsheets in order to get these features out of the system. If you're producing an over-under billing report for the bank or the bonding company, or you're producing some type of an income statement or a balance sheet in a spreadsheet for your accountant, you probably need to second guess yourself and say, why am I spending time putting this information into a spreadsheet when my accounting system should be producing this for me? So again, that's a job cost accounting specific application. And I'm trying not to make this self-serving at all. Sorry, but this slide I'm going to get a little bit self-serving. Here's a great way to start. A lot of people say, I'm not ready to make that commitment. I'm not ready. I have QuickBooks. I'm comfortable with it. I have somebody in the office 2 to 3 hours a day. Sometimes I only have them in there for 10 hours a week. I can't graduate to a more specific application, but I'm a labor-intensive contractor. We all know that what's out there is government work right now. Well, what comes along with government work? Lots of reporting, especially from the payroll side. So what you have is you have Payroll Services. Everybody's heard of ADP and Paychex. They're large, they're reliable, they're on every street corner. Everybody has them. A lot of people use them. What we started about 4 years ago was payrollforconstruction.com. And basically just think ADP or Paychex, except it's specific to the construction industry. Where the big boys struggle with certain things like certain certified payroll reports. Remember, there's probably across the nation 100+ different variations of certified payroll reports. You go to Wisconsin, there's a Wisconsin certified report. A lot of people use Department of Labor. New York City has 5, 6, 7 different ones for school and transportation and DOT. It's all over the place. So what we've done is We created payrollforconstruction.com. It's easy. It maybe 2 hours of setup time. Your account rep will take care of everything for you. All you have to do on a weekly basis is enter the employees, the jobs they worked on, and the number of hours. If you're a union company, we take care of the union reportings. If you need certified and you do prevailing wage or Davis-Bacon, we provide you with those. We take care of the new hire reporting. We take care of garnishments. So this is a nice way to start if you're not ready to graduate. And on top of that, we have 100 plus out of 2,500 accounting users that use both companies. And you would say, well, why would they have your accounting package that does everything you just mentioned, and then they use your payroll service as well? They don't want the responsibility of the taxes. They don't want to keep up with the tax laws. How many people know their first quarter 941 in April? It's a brand new form. You don't use it, it's rejected. It's rejected. It's gone. So if you don't know that, now you do. And the only way you can get it, Angela was saying before, you know how long federal government gave us to do this? They told us last week, Wednesday. So we have to have this programmed, out the door. 2,500 plus customers have to update no later than April 30th. If they want to send it out on April 5th, they have to be updated by April 5th, or they have to do it manual. When you tell them they have to do it manual, they're going to say, well, isn't that the reason I paid you $15,000? So you see that keeping up with these laws is a reason that people will go for a payroll service, even if they have an application that can handle it for them. So that's payrollforconstruction.com. Estimating. A lot of people are looking for estimating built into their accounting package. If you are a general contractor, you're probably going to find something that will work adequately. If you are not a general contractor, you probably are not going to find something that does what I call best of breed in both. If you're a highway contractor, okay, or you're underground or you're utility, estimating is very niche. There's applications out there for heavy highway. There's HCSS, there's bid to win, there's hard dollar. They do nothing but highway, okay? GCs, there's MC squared from a high end, there's win estimator from a low end. Electrical contractors, there's con estimating out there. Masons and concrete, there's what's called tradesmen out there. They don't work for electricals, they don't work for highway, they only work for mason and concrete. So the reason we have never developed one is because we probably have 80% trades and 20% general contractors, somewhere in that area. I'm not sure exactly. So what did we do? We link in with all of these. We've built a bridge, and I'm going to try, as long as time permits, to go in and actually show you how we bring one in. You know, if anybody wants to take a guess what they think the most popular estimating package out there, it's an Excel spreadsheet. That's what it is. It's none of the above that I mentioned. Most people are in Excel, creating something in Excel, and they don't want to re-enter that into the accounting system. So I can show you how we could take an Excel spreadsheet, dump it in, and there's my budget. 500 cost codes, labor, material, subcontracts, owned equipment for each one of those cost codes, done by the push of a button. So we link in with all of them. Angela probably uses Timberline estimating, I would guess. Their GC doesn't have large labor force. All right, remote time entry. This is what I would call, we'll call it mobile devices, okay? I would say this is the up and coming this year, 2011 and 2012. And you have a lot of people competing right now, because what we've done in the past is there's a lot of different applications out there. Some are swipe cards, some you have little keychains and they just punch in and punch out. You put in the job, you put in the cost code, you do it again when you leave. It'll say, oh, Joe worked on job 12. All you had to do was put in cost code 2020. When you click it on the way out, it'll say you worked 7.4 hours. Okay? All those applications, Job Clock, Zora, Exact Time, they all link in with our software and a lot of other softwares as well. So again, you have an integration there. Having said that, we need at this point in time, by the end of the year, we will have mobile devices out there as well now, because that is one area it's not all that complicated to do. So we will be developing our own mobile devices. Now, how do you address that with these other providers that you've passed leads back and forth to for years and years and years? Now you're kind of creating a competing product with them. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. One of the big things with these mobile apps is a lot of times you're working in a basement. You might be working out in an area where there's no connectivity. Most people do not have a laptop that they're doing this on. They're doing it on some type of smartphone, anything from an iPhone to a Droid to an iPad to a tablet. Some people do have mini laptops. What a lot of people do is they make you have to be connected in order to work. That doesn't work in the construction industry. You can't be connected by 3G and try to look at a job that has 8,000 jobs in it and expect 3G to come over quick. So what you have to do is you have to be able to work offline and do what's called caching, which brings it in when you go back into an area where you do have a signal, it will resync once again. Okay? So how are these priced? A lot of them are monthly fees. Hardware costs can add up quickly, because remember, if you do have an iPhone, if you do have an iPad, you better make it ruggedized. There is ruggedized devices out that you can buy. They're very expensive. They can be $1,000, $2,000 a piece, or you can just take simple Droid, buy something for $29, wrap it around it, hope when you drop it for the 13th time it still doesn't break. But you better make these ruggedized out in the field, because they will fall. And as we know, with these new plans, you might have gotten that phone when you got your new Verizon subscription for $199. Well, if you're not on your upgrade plan, they're $699 all of a sudden. So spend that $40, make sure they're ruggedized, or buy the necessary equipment right up front. So hardware costs can add up quickly. You try to make it universal so it works with all the providers out there, the AT&Ts, which Angela's so fond of, the Sprints, the Verizons. You want to make sure it works with everybody. The other big decision you have to make is they're all their own little world. Apple doesn't play in anybody else's world. Apple plays in Apple's world. So when you develop something, you have to develop an app for Apple. You have to develop another app for the Droid. You have to develop a third one for the BlackBerry. You have to develop a fourth one for the desktop. So what's the alternative to that? How do I get around that, having to have 4 applications? Every time I make a change, I got to make a change to 4 applications. Every time a new Apple phone comes out, I have to make an application. What you do is you can run everything through the web now. So you create one application, and the iPhone is only acting as a device to connect you to the internet. You're really not using the app on the iPhone. You're using the web browser on the iPhone or the Droid. That's the route that we are going, because it allows us to have one application, maintain one application, which is hard enough, as opposed to maintaining 5 applications. And getting into Apple's world, and I'm not a fan or a detractor of Apple. I have an iPhone, I have an iPod, but I also don't run around saying Mac is, Steve Jobs is God either, like a lot of people. But they don't play nice with others. They just don't, nor will they ever. Trust me, things are not changing. They are. So you have to get around that somehow. You really do. So very big, very up and coming. You will hear about this and see this a lot. Hardware options. This is a little bit of a duplication of what Angela went through. You can have everything out there. Right now, some people have a peer-to-peer, which means I have my laptop, Frank has his laptop, Angela has their laptop. My laptop is acting as a server and a workstation. Very basic, not the most secure environment in the world, but for smaller companies, it works great. It does, and it keeps your cost way down. What do the majority of our clients have? 90-95%. They have dedicated servers. You need some IT experience on site. You need somebody that knows what they're doing. Somebody that can have that dedicated server that nobody's allowed to touch, that sits there and everybody says, well, whose computer is that? It's nobody's. That's our dedicated server. Everybody else is tapped into that. It should be securely locked up in a room. One thing that we did not talk about yet, if you're not doing backups and you're not testing these backups, and when I say doing backups, I mean nightly, every single night. And you're not testing them on some type of a regular frequency, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, you are really opening yourself up for a disaster. Make sure you have backups. Make sure you test your backups and they work. There's so many options out there now for backups that there's really no reason why you should not have secure backups. My advice, have multiple backups. Have somebody take one off-site every single night. Don't just back up from here to here. Your building goes away, guess what? Here and here is gone. Okay? Somebody should be taking something off-site nightly. And again, for a construction company, you're not going to have a co-location such as an Expedient where you're spending $18,000 a year to have the data replicated like we have to. However, you do want this stuff taken off-site. I'm going to contradict myself a little. If the mobile devices are the up-and-coming devices, the cloud is the up-and-coming word that you are hearing all the time, right? And, the funny and humorous part about it is, if you ever watch the cloud commercials where the one is they're sitting in the airport, and they go, oh, we can just go to the cloud, and they tap in and they start watching something on their computer at home. You could do that 15 years ago through Go to My PC or PC Anywhere. It's not the cloud. All the cloud really means, to be honest with you, it's a new fancy word that everybody came up with for the internet. It really, really is. But what is up and coming is SaaS, and what SaaS stands for is software as a service, okay? And it has many, many advantages. It's what's called a hosted solution, and I'll explain a little bit what a hosted solution means. All you need at your office is internet access. That is it. You do not need a dedicated server. You do not even need the latest and greatest computers such as Vista or Windows 7 or Windows 7 Professional. What you need is internet access. You are logging in to a hosted environment, such as we do this now. We host people's software. Their software sits at our facility. Through the internet, they tap in. You tap in through what's called an RDP session. It's a remote desktop protocol, which means all you're doing is passing data back and forth. Everything's happening at our location. All your data is stored at our location, the processing's stored at our location. So if you say 2 plus 2, it'll send the 2 and 2 across to my location. It'll perform the function at our location and pass a 4 back to you, so to speak, in the lowest of terms here. So what are some of the advantages of a hosted solution? Don't have to worry about backups. The hosted facility takes care of the backups for you. Don't have to worry about updates anymore. The updates are automatic. Don't have to worry about an install when you buy the on-premise software and you know that 3-hour installation you went through and it didn't quite work on certain machines. That's all gone. So those are some of the big advantages. Your hardware costs can be kept to almost zero. As long as you have a computer with internet access, you are good to go. So what advantage does that have to some of these smaller companies? It allows you, the smaller companies, what it does is it allows you to get into more sophisticated softwares because you don't have to pay the upfront cost. You know, for example, as opposed to laying down $15,000, 6 to 8 weeks of time and effort for training, hardware cost of another $12,000 to $15,000. With a SaaS environment, you simply say, I'm ready to go. There is no installation. You start your training immediately, and you pay as you go on a monthly basis. You know, we have some clients on our SaaS model that we just started back in December. It's very new. They're paying $400 a month, zero upfront cost. They literally pay $400 a month. That includes the software. They have the same features and functionality as an on-premise software. Don't worry about backups. Don't worry about updates. You know, we have 2 buildings. We have replication between those 2 buildings. Then we have a third replication if a tornado came in and swept those 2 buildings out at Expedient. So we are protected completely. We have 3 different lines coming in to protect us. So if a pole got hit and our internet went down, a second one kicks in. And if that second one goes down, we have a third one. So that is protection that the customer no longer has to worry about. We have taken that worry away from you. Is there downsides to it? Speed could potentially be if the internet, if you didn't have high-speed internet, it potentially could be. But in this day and age, that's going away and it's becoming less and less and less. But it is still something that you should probably consider. So SaaS is up and coming, and you will continue to hear about it and continue to hear about it as time goes on. So what's right for you? What's right for your company? The answer is probably different for, if we have 7 companies in here, the answer is probably different for all 70. Somebody may need Viewpoint for $150,000. I don't know. Somebody may need nothing more than QuickBooks for $2,000. Somebody may need a payroll service because payroll is the headache that they have in the office right now, and they're not ready to move to a more sophisticated software. So you need to perform due diligence as well on these companies. What's their track record? Never, ever, ever leave the company out of your decision, because you are going to rely on that company. No matter what software we're talking about, you are going to run into bumps in the road, period. You will. 100% of the time you are going to. You want to have a company that you can work with and is working towards the same goal and objective as you. If you do go to a higher end accounting package, make sure you have the staff in place. Don't think that person that's coming in for 2 hours, 3 days a week is going to handle it. They're not. You need to make sure you have the necessary people in place. Determine what's a necessity versus a wish list. And mobile devices are really cool out in the field, but is it a necessity right now? Are your PMs, or if you even have PMs out in the field, are your foremen, or if you don't even have foremen, are your employees going to sit there on their iPods, and are they going to actually give you that data? If not, well, I talked a good game. It sounded really cool, but if you're not going to get the data, forget it. forget it. Let them write their name on a sheet of paper and hand it to you and continue to do it the way you're doing. So you do have to determine what's really a necessity. We know certified payrolls are a necessity. We're not getting paid if we don't have them. We know AIAs are a necessity because if I don't hand it in, FGC's not giving me my money. So those are necessities. Having these cool little tools, they are cool if you can implement it, but you know better than I do that trying to implement these things is not easy. Resistance to change is, people ask, what's the number one reason that software implementations fail or mobile devices out in the field fail? Resistance to change, period. There's nothing else. And you can say, oh, that's kind of passing the buck. No, it's not. People go through a stage. It's a little curve just like this where they fight it, they fight it, they fight it. They almost go into a depression. And then they start to say, well, I better get on board or I'm in trouble. Well, Joe next door said it's pretty cool. Maybe I'll try it. All right. Well, but a lot happens in between that time. Don't underestimate the time involved. Do not underestimate it. You know, err on the side of adding on to whatever you hear. Talk with CPAs, talk with your bonding companies, talk with any other professionals. They can always recommend different applications for you, tell you what's right for you. A lot of times they're just going to say, oh, go buy foundation. Well, hang on. A lot of times we're going to say, slow down. They don't have anybody in place to run the application. It's probably not the best thing for them to do right now at this particular point in time.